everyone to Inside the Publisher Lab, the show about the show, where we dive a little bit deeper into topics that we talk about on our podcast, The Publisher Lab. And today, Shelby, what are we diving into a little bit deeper?
Yeah, so we're diving into some reoccurring SEO tasks that you should kind of remember to do before the year ends.
So what are these tasks that we talked about them a little bit on the show, and we agreed that all were good, but some were probably more important to do frequently than others, right?
Right, so the first one is crawling for broken links.
Crawling for broken links. So crawling for broken links is basically the act of going through and having a crawler go through your site and figure out where different links are broken so that it may be causing 404 pages or your internal link structure, which could be affecting SEO to have issues. And so usually if you've never done that before, you'll find quite a bit. And so it's worth it to go into your site and do that if you've never done it before. If you've done it before, it's not really something you need to do real frequently because typically you'll find all the broken links, you'll fix stuff, and even if they're external ones, you can email people and say, hey, but you can also run redirects for all that sort of thing. And so once you fix all that, really every couple months is the most frequent you really need to run that. I would say every 6 months to a year is worth going in and running it again. But hopefully after you've done it initially, you won't run into something that takes a lot of your time.
All right, so the next one is reviewing content for quality and relevance.
Right. So we talked a little bit about this already, but the act of going through your content for relevance is really, really important to maintain both good rankings and over time your article is going to build up a little bit of equity with visitors, and so your hope is that you can maybe augment it in a way that moves it up the rankings as well. And so this is really important to do, but you can use data to make it a little bit more manageable. So lots of publishers have thousands and thousands of articles on their site. It would be good to look at the stuff that is date oriented. So if you're getting lots of traffic to an article that's something the best to do in 2017 or the best to do whatever in 2018, it's worth updating those articles because slowly but surely you will start to bleed away that traffic as Google realizes it's less relevant in 2019 or 2020 or whatever it is. So it's worth updating those articles if they're getting lots of traffic. If they weren't getting any traffic when you published them in 2016 or 2017, may not be worth updating them just yet. But one of the best things you can do is use a tool like SEMrush or Moz, or pick your favorite SEO tool, and to look at your keyword rankings, make sure that your stuff that's ranking #1 with high volume keywords continues to be relevant, and then work your way down that list and just see, is there content that I can update that will help me move my content up or potentially keep it from moving down.
The next one is testing for page speed.
This is another one. If you are testing page speed, we talked about it by throwing in your URL to Google PageSpeed tools, which has gotten way harder, by the way. I had a site the other day I took all the content in CSS and JavaScript out of, put it on a CDN, and was still getting an 88 on. So if you're throwing your site in there, you're probably seeing a really low score. But it's a really bad way of measuring speed in general. The best thing I can tell you to do is to use something like webpagetest.org or something similar that is going to look at your site a little bit more objectively, tell you if your CDN is still intact, and give you a deeper dive into maybe why a site's in general or a site page may be loading slowly. But the best thing I can say is, it's worth just kind of doing those basic upkeep practices. And I think the last one on the list, it goes along with this. So I'll hang up and wait to answer the next question until the very last one.
All right, so the next one is reviewing WordPress plugins.
And so that really kind of dovetails into my last one, which is if you are testing speed or just looking at the technical side of SEO. I hate that term, as you know, but really looking at your site in terms of being a good webmaster, keeping your house nice and orderly. If you want your speed and the internal structure of your site to be nice and clean, easy to be crawled by Googlebot, easy to be navigated by users, which are really fundamental for good SEO, you want to be going into your plugins, deactivating the ones you don't use, deleting them, going into your My PHP admin inside of your host, deleting those plugin files completely so that they're not, leaving remnants of, excess JavaScript or CSS on your site. The same thing with old themes that you're not using anymore. Old themes sometimes will have CSS layers that stay on the site even though you've deactivated the theme. Again, going into My PHP admin and getting rid of that stuff. Those types of things are really helpful. They make your site faster, they make your site cleaner, and those processes are the quote unquote technical SEO things that make sure your site is nice and easy for a bot to crawl and also a person to navigate.
The last one is to test layout and functionality, which kind of I think gets bucketed into the whole housekeeping aspect of maintaining your website.
That's right. And usually your users will let you know if you have a major issue on a certain browser type. You'll start getting emails. If you get two emails from the same user about the same problem and you can't duplicate it, it's likely their browser. If you use a tool like Big Data Analytics, you can go into frameworks and you can look at browser and OS type. And typically, you can look at user experience metrics like session duration and bounce rate, engagement time, and you can see the one thing that kind of stands out. If you see Firefox has got 100% bounce rate and everything else is right around 30%, you've got maybe a problem in Firefox, and so you've kind of isolated the problem. And usually once you find a browser problem, you can Google exactly what that is, and you can find other people that are having the same issue with the browser. You isolate it. It's a plugin. It's a CSS category, something like that. Pretty easy to fix. I think that's it.
I think that's it.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us this week on the Publisher Lab. Hopefully, some of these things were helpful for you, and we want to wish you Happy New Year as we transition. This is what time of year it is. If you happen to be watching this at another time, regardless of whatever year it is, we hope that it's a happy one for you. Right, Shelby?
That's all.
That's it. Thanks, guys.